Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. 1 week before the wedding, Thomas finished work early, ignoring a client's call, and hurried home to focus on writing his wedding vows. However, upon entering the house, he froze in place. His fiancée stood before him in a striking black cocktail dress, a pearl necklace draped around her neck, and high heels that accentuated her figure. She looked stunning, and for a moment, Thomas was captivated by her appearance. "You're back earlier than I expected," she said, her voice unusually sharp, with a hint of unease. Thomas sensed that something was off, though he couldn't quite figure out what. Thinking he might have forgotten some dinner plans, Thomas smiled, kissed her on the cheek, and said, "Give me 10 minutes, I'll shave and change." But Ava's trembling tone as she responded gave him pause. "Where are you going?" He stopped, puzzled. "With you, of course. You're dressed like we're going somewhere." A brief silence hung between them before she let out a heavy sigh, guilt clouding her expression. "There's something you need to know. I didn't know how to tell you, so I was going to leave a note, but I'm leaving for the weekend," she confessed, her eyes darting toward a suitcase by the door. Thomas frowned. "Leaving? What do you mean? We're in the middle of wedding preparations. What's going on?" "I just need some space," she mumbled, her voice trembling. "I'll be staying at a hotel for the weekend." "Alone?" he asked, suspicion creeping into his voice. The pause that followed felt endless before Ava whispered, "No, I'll be with a friend." A cold knot tightened in Thomas's chest, and he exhaled slowly, trying to maintain his composure. "A friend? Should I assume this friend is a man?" Her silence and the guilt in her eyes told him everything. "It's not what you think," she muttered. "He's just a friend." "A friend?" Thomas repeated, his voice rising as his fists clenched at his sides. "You're spending the weekend before our wedding with some guy and expect me to believe it's innocent?" "I need this," she asked quietly. "Who is he?" Thomas's voice cut through the air, vibrating with tension. "Who is this guy you'll be sharing a bed with?" "It's not like that," Ava whispered, lowering her gaze to the floor. "We're just talking about everything." "What is he? A therapist? A counselor?" Thomas snapped, losing patience with her evasive answers. But she remained silent, her gaze fixed on the floor. "Is he at least licensed to help couples before their wedding?" Thomas continued sarcastically. Her lips quivered, but she couldn't form any words. Finally, she mumbled, "He's just a good listener." Thomas's jaw tightened. "A good listener? So, a week before our wedding, you're going to spend the weekend with some guy because he's a good listener?" Tears streamed down Ava's cheeks, her guilt spilling out in the form of silent sobs. "Look at me!" Thomas demanded. When she finally raised her eyes, mascara ran down her cheeks, and her flawless appearance was now ruined. "Tell me again. Who is he? Promise you won't hurt him," Ava whispered, her voice barely audible. Thomas's eyes darkened with fury. "I promise I'll find him," he growled. "And if you don't tell me who he is, I swear I—" Ava collapsed onto the floor, curling into a ball as if trying to protect herself from the heat of his anger radiating from him like fire. "Get up!" he yelled, but she didn't move. Enraged, Thomas grabbed a mirror in the hallway and threw it at the wall, shattering it into pieces that scattered across the floor. The sudden noise made Ava jump to her feet. "That's why I was leaving a note," she cried. "I wanted to explain everything before you got home." Thomas's eyes burned into her. "So if I hadn't come home early, you would have just disappeared." His voice was icy. Ava nodded, unable to say anything more, her shame robbing her of words. Thomas struggled to keep his emotions in check, his anger boiling beneath a facade of calm. "So, you were planning to disappear for the weekend with another man and leave me just a note?" His voice was filled with disbelief. He opened his briefcase, pulled out a notepad and pen, and carelessly tossed them onto the table as he sat down. "This better be one hell of a note." Ava hesitantly sat across from him. After a brief pause, she began writing. The minutes stretched on, and as soon as she put down the pen, Thomas waited anxiously. When she made no move to hand him the notebook, he reached out and snatched it from her. There was only one cryptic line on the page. "Next week I'm starting a new chapter in my life, and I need to do it before it's too late." His face twisted with shock and disappointment. His voice trembled as he spoke. "Tell me the truth. Were you planning to leave me for someone else?" Ava hesitated, her eyes darting around the room before she answered. "If I had more time, I would have explained everything." "That's not an answer," he cut in sharply. "How could you think this would help us? How is this supposed to improve our marriage?" Her words caught in her throat, and she struggled to find any justification. I thought it might help us." Thomas shook his head, unable to believe what he was hearing. "Help us? People destroy marriages over things like this, Ava. Affairs ruin everything. There's nothing left after that. You can't just come back from something like this." His bluntness cut her deeply, leaving her in shock. She hadn't expected him to be so direct or to hint at the possible end of their relationship. Desperately trying to salvage the situation, Ava frantically searched her mind for something, anything, that could excuse her actions, but nothing came. In helplessness, she mumbled, "I didn't tell you because I knew you'd react like this." "React like this?" Thomas repeated, something inside him snapping as his voice rose. "You think this is bad? You don't even know what bad is. I'm canceling the wedding, unless you tell me his name right now." His words sent a wave of terror through her. "Don't say that," she begged, grabbing his wrists. "I love you, Thomas. You mean everything to me." He pulled his hands free from her grasp. "Tell me his name." She remained silent. "This is your last chance. Either tell me his name or leave my house. Right now." Tears welled up in her eyes as she stammered, "Thomas, please," her voice trembling. "I love you." "You have a strange way of showing love," he replied coldly, rising from his chair and heading for the door. "I'll ask you one more time. Tell me his name or leave." Finally, unable to bear the tension any longer, she whispered, Kyle Martinez." The color drained from Thomas's face, his anger simmering. "Your boss? That old man is older than your father." His voice echoed through the room. Ava broke down in sobs, her body shaking. "Did you sleep with him?" Thomas's voice was now eerily calm. She said nothing, her gaze fixed on the floor as his question hung in the air. "Did you sleep with him?" he repeated, his voice soft yet commanding. Still there was no answer. Thomas leaned closer, his voice barely audible. "Answer me. Did you sleep with him?" Tears streamed down her face and she barely nodded. The confession hit him like a physical blow. He staggered back, his heart racing in his chest, his vision darkening. Grabbing the table for support, he felt the ground slipping away beneath him. Ava stood frozen, paralyzed by fear and guilt. Several long moments passed before Thomas could regain enough composure to speak again. "He's married, isn't he? I remember seeing him and his wife at the Christmas party." His voice was cold and detached. "What does she think about her husband cheating with someone half her age?" "She doesn't care," Ava whispered, barely audible. She's going through menopause. They haven't been close for almost a year." "Did she tell you that directly?" Thomas asked, suspicion evident in his voice. Kyle hesitated, his response full of uncertainty. "No, she didn't. She was too ashamed to admit it outright." "Why don't we just call her and settle this?" Thomas suggested, barely concealing his irritation. Ava firmly shook her head. "That would only embarrass her further." "Give me your phone," Thomas demanded, losing patience. "I'm willing to take that risk." Ava reluctantly admitted, "I don't have their home number, only his mobile." Thomas's eyes narrowed. "So, he's hiding from his wife, isn't he?" "It's not like that," Ava quickly protested. "He's just trying to preserve her dignity, to spare her the humiliation." Thomas's anger flared. "It's disgusting that you're defending him. It makes me sick." His voice turned cold like ice. "You have two options. Either you leave or you become just as vile as the person you're defending." Ava spun around, her eyes blazing with fury. "How dare you call me that?" Thomas didn't flinch. "What else would you call a woman who's engaged and sleeping with a married man?" Ava turned away, muttering something under her breath, and the room fell into silence. "Before you go," Thomas's voice cut through the tension, "one more question. Why were you planning to spend the weekend with another man?" Ava froze, her words finally spilling from her lips, filled with bitterness. "It's all because of you, and you know it." Thomas blinked, stunned. "Because of me? What are you talking about?" "When our relationship got serious, you told me you'd been with 3 women before me," Ava said, her voice sharp with accusation. "You were my first and only. I said it didn't matter, but after talking to Kyle, it started eating away at me. I felt like I had to cheat to balance things out between us." "You felt like you had to cheat?" Thomas's voice grew even colder. "How do you even justify that?" "Kyle said that for our marriage to succeed, we had to be equals. He reminded me that you've always claimed you'd never stay with a woman who cheats. So I thought, since we're not married yet, I should level the playing field now," she explained, her reasoning warped by desperation. "After the wedding, I'd never do it again." Thomas's face hardened. "Are you out of your mind? I've been faithful to you since day one." Ava shifted nervously. "Kyle helped me see how unfair it was for me, but he wasn't trying to manipulate me." Thomas scoffed. "And you believe that? You really think he wasn't trying to get something in return?" "That's not what it was," she insisted. "He was just helping me figure things out." "Helping you?" Thomas's voice dripped with sarcasm. "And what exactly did this help consist of?" Ava turned away, her voice quieter. "He made me realize that I deserved to be on equal footing with you, that I had the right to be with other men, just like you were with other women." "The right?" Thomas's voice was filled with disbelief. "That's absolute madness." Ava forced a strained smile, but it was hollow. "Yes, I slept with another man, but I love you, and I'm ready to be with you forever." Thomas's gaze was icy. "Stay with me?" He shook his head in disbelief. "Do you even hear yourself? If this weren't so tragic, it'd be laughable." Ava's face twisted in confusion. It all made sense when Kyle explained it. Back then it was so clear. It wasn't supposed to end like this. Thomas's expression darkened. "We were supposed to be loyal to each other forever, and instead, you're sleeping with your boss behind my back." Ava opened her mouth, wanting to deny it, but no words came. "No, no," she whispered, as if trying to turn back time, as if her denial could erase the truth Thomas had just uncovered. "Don't try to manipulate the situation," he said sharply. "What do you think will happen when you come back from your little trip? Did you seriously think I would stand by, smile, and pretend like nothing happened with the man who slept with my fiancé? No way." Her voice trembled. "I hoped you would never find out. I love you. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought I could hide it forever." She froze for a moment, her eyes fixed on him before she continued. "I assumed you would think I was just out of reach for a while. My phone was off, and you wouldn't suspect anything." He looked at her with disbelief and disgust, but she kept going. "Even if you did find out, I thought your love for me would make you forgive, that we would get through this and still get married, live the life we always dreamed of." "Live the life we dreamed of?" he repeated, bitterness in his voice, almost laughing but filled with rage. "What in you, or everything you know about me, gave you the idea that I would still want to marry you after this?" "Kyle said," she began, but Thomas interrupted her, his voice turning sharp. "Kyle said? Kyle said? That guy is nothing more than a manipulator who is using you because you're easy to manipulate." "No," she whispered weakly. "He was just trying to help make things better between us." "How many times?" His voice became icy. "How many times did you sleep with him or someone else?" "There was no one else, I swear," she sobbed. "Just him." "Fine. How many times then?" Silence stretched before she admitted. "Not that many. 5 or 8. 5 or 8? You slept with him that many times while we were engaged, and you act like it doesn't matter?" "I did it for us," Ava cried, her voice shaking with emotion. "I wanted our marriage to be strong. You remember when I told you I wasn't innocent?" "Yes, and I didn't tell you how many girls I had been with. You know I've made love 3 times, But I didn't say it was with 3 different girls. I was with Patricia Johnson, thinking we would run away after graduation, until her mother caught us. You know how that ended. They moved away and I never saw her again. 2 months later, I met you. Since then, I haven't even kissed another woman." His words were clipped, his anger evident in every syllable. "And meanwhile, you were with someone else, 5 or 8 times. You can't even keep count." Ava felt her stomach tighten with guilt. "So, you're ahead by 4 or 5 women," Thomas sarcastically added. "Maybe I should go and sleep with a few more to even the score." "No, please, no!" Ava cried out, her voice shaking with panic. "Do you really think that scoundrel would be calm if I had 4 or 5 affairs to even the score? And what about Laura? You've always said you didn't trust her around me. Or maybe I should try your sister. She's single after all." "Stop!" Ava shouted, her voice cracking. "Please don't. I'm done with him. I'm not going on that trip. I swear it's over. I made a mistake, but I did it because I thought it's what we needed." Thomas shook his head, his face stone cold. "No, you did it for yourself, only for yourself." She collapsed to her knees, pleading, "Please, Thomas, give me one more chance. I swear I'll never again." He raised his hand, and she fell silent. His voice was cold, final. "What you've done is unforgivable. You've destroyed everything between us. There's no future, no wedding." Her face contorted as the meaning of his words sank in. "No, don't say that. I love you. I swear I will never betray you like this again." His voice was full of rage, but beneath it, unmistakably, there was pain. "What hurts more than your betrayal is that when you started doubting us, you didn't come to me, to the one you call your love. I don't know what I would have done, but I can guarantee you one thing. I would never have told you to sleep with a married man. Only someone who wants to destroy a relationship would suggest something like that." The silence that followed was unbearable. Ava felt as if icy hands were tearing her apart, destroying every hope and dream she still had left. Her chest tightened, a lump formed in her throat, and she could barely breathe. "What do you think your mother will say when I tell her why we're not getting married?" Thomas's voice was quiet, dangerous. "When I explain that you gave yourself to another man, how do you think she'll react? I'll make sure everyone knows what you've done. Everyone, our families, our friends, will know the truth, that we're not getting married because you slept with a married man." His hand gripped her fingers, and with a sharp movement, he ripped the engagement ring from her, nearly twisting her finger in the process. "No," she gasped, trying to reach for it. "It's mine. You gave it to me." Ava desperately struggled, trying to get the ring back, the last reminder of what they once meant to each other. But Thomas's expression remained cold, his grip unyielding. "You destroyed everything," he hissed, his knuckles white as he clenched the ring in his fist. "Everything this ring symbolized is gone." His words were as sharp as a blade, cutting her to the core. "We're done. I can't marry you." His gaze pierced her, and the seriousness of his words was undeniable. "Leave now, before I do something I'll regret." The firmness of his voice struck her like a blow, and Ava felt her body begin to shut down. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came. Only a strangled, desperate sound escaped her lips, like the final breath of a dying person. Her eyes, filled with terror, searched desperately for even the slightest sign of compassion, but Thomas remained unmoved. Her body shook uncontrollably, but the silence between them lingered. Tears streamed down his cheeks, betraying the depth of his pain. "I haven't felt this way since my father died," he whispered, as if speaking to himself. Ava's thoughts raced, trying to find anything that could mend the shattered pieces of their relationship. But nothing came. It was only in this agonizing moment that she realized how far things had gone, how deeply she had deceived herself. The unbearable silence was suddenly broken by a sharp knock at the door. Ava flinched, her breath quickening, and she whispered, "Oh no, it's Kyle. I'll get rid of him." "Don't make it worse," she pleaded, but Thomas had already grabbed the baseball bat he kept by the door. "Calm down, I'm not going to make a scene," he said, his voice frighteningly calm. "I'll finish him off right in front of you." Ava jumped to her feet, her heart pounding. "He's not worth it!" Don't ruin your life over this, she cried, trying to block his path. I don't care, Thomas said, sidestepping her, his tone empty and dead. I've lost everything, but if I take him down, at least I'll make him pay for what he's done. She frantically tried to dial Kyle's number, but the call went straight to voicemail. Thomas, with the bat in hand, flung the door open, ready to strike. But instead of Kyle, 2 police officers stood on the doorstep. The bat slipped from his hands, hitting the floor with a loud thud. He froze, his face impassive as the officers walked past him. Excuse me, ma'am, one of them addressed Ava. Are you Ava Gonzalez? Her heart raced. Yes, she whispered. What happened, officer? The officer's face remained expressionless as he closed the door behind him. Do you know Mrs. Emma Martinez? Ava blinked, her thoughts clouded with confusion. I work for her husband, Kyle, she answered quietly. The officers exchanged glances, as if sharing some private joke. Did something happen? Did something happen to Emma? She asked, her voice trembling with fear. No, ma'am, the officer replied slowly. But about 2 hours ago, Mrs. Martinez shot and killed her husband in their living room. Ava's legs gave way, and she collapsed to the floor, her mind flooded with shock. Thomas disappeared into the kitchen and returned a few minutes later with a pot of cold water. Without saying a word, he poured it over Ava, soaking her hair, which clung to her face like wet fur. It took her several minutes to gather the strength to speak. Oh my God, was all she could manage. Ava's hands trembled uncontrollably as tears streamed down her face. Kyle is dead. The officer nodded grimly. Yes, ma'am. Thomas responded with a bitter, hollow laugh, causing the officers to exchange worried glances. Looks like she wasn't going to let him leave with you for the weekend. We need you to come down to the station with us, ma'am. Earlier that day, Mrs. Martinez had coldly warned her neighbor, she'll pay for ruining my marriage. Now, with police cars swarming the area, Ava was the target. Authorities believed it would be safer for her downtown. Numb from shock, her face ashen, Ava stood among the ruins of her life. Don't come back, cheater. Thomas's cruel voice rang in her ears, his words echoing in her mind as the cries of his former fiancée filled the air. The officers nearly had to carry Ava to the patrol car. Thomas watched as the flashing lights disappeared into the night, his mind spinning with the speed of his unraveling world. 3 sips of whiskey loosened his tongue, and after the 4th, his mind filled with venomous inspiration. He opened his laptop and began composing a letter to everyone he knew. Family, friends, colleagues, even the church choir, no one was left out. The subject line blazed, Why I'm refusing to marry Ava Gonzalez, liar and cheater. His fingers flew over the keyboard. Turn on the news tonight, and you'll hear about a middle-aged woman who killed her husband for cheating with a 30-year-old floozy. And that floozy, by the way, is my ex-fiancée Ava. Yes, the same righteous Ava who condemned her friends for their affairs. She's the reason a man in his 60s is lying in the morgue. And let me add, she slept with someone old enough to be her father. Now you all know why I'm not marrying her. Thank God I dodged that bullet. The police are hiding her because the widow wants revenge. Honestly, I hope she gets it. As soon as he hit send, replies flooded his inbox. His phone buzzed. A local newspaper journalist wanted to talk. Without hesitation, Thomas sent a few photos of Ava in a revealing swimsuit, then gave the reporter all the dirty details. He even agreed to go on live radio to tell his story. Over the next few hours, he was bombarded with calls, messages, and even words of sympathy from people who knew Ava. When his voice finally gave out, Thomas took a break. He grabbed a pack of black trash bags and started stuffing Ava's belongings into them. By the time he finished, 3 bags stood by the door, which he dragged into the garage next to the trash cans. The neighborhood had been quiet for years, but the next morning's headlines screamed, "Love triangle ends in murder." By noon, news vans descended on the block. The evening broadcasts showed footage of the fugitive widow, photos of Ava in that same swimsuit, and shots of the victim. Late that night, Thomas finished the last of the bourbon. By morning, the news crews returned, this time filming as a locksmith changed the locks on his doors. A new "no trespassing" sign now stood prominently in the yard. Just 2 hours later, police arrested Emma Martinez, asleep in her car just a few blocks from Ava's apartment. She offered no resistance. Meanwhile, a groggy Thomas was rudely awakened from his hangover by loud knocks on the door. "Go away!" he shouted. "It's the police," came the stern reply. Grumbling, Thomas flung the door open. "What now?" "Mr. Anderson, your fiancé wants to come home and explain everything to you." "I don't have a fiancé anymore, and this isn't her home," he snarled. "This is my home, and it'll never be hers." He pointed to the trash bags by the garage. "That's all she has left. Take them with you, or I'll do something I'll regret." As the officers turned to leave, he added with icy finality, "Tell her she'll never get my forgiveness. I'm done with her. Forever." Closing the door behind him, he heard her voice coming from the police car. "Thomas, I love you." He didn't respond, turning on the television and settling into the armchair. An old black-and-white Western flickered on the screen, offering a distraction from his thoughts. No one had ever taken responsibility for leaking the photos that exposed the affair to Martinez's wife. But everyone in the office knew that the secretary, Kayla, showed up on Monday with a smug smile. Ava quickly found herself isolated. She hadn't even reached her office when she lost her job. After the death of the business owner, despite his wife hiring expensive lawyers claiming she was temporarily insane, the company was sold to a foreign buyer who immediately fired all the staff and moved operations abroad. Ava's family turned their backs on her, branding her as an unfaithful fiancé. The day after her court testimony, she packed her things into her car and left town in search of a fresh start. As she drove past Thomas's house for the last time, she saw a bright "for sale" sign on the lawn. She tried to keep driving, but tears blurred her vision. Ava pulled over to the side of the road, closed her eyes, and longed to feel the comfort of his arms once again. In that moment, more than anything, she just wanted to disappear. 4 years later, Thomas returned to his hometown for the funeral of an old friend. The Alumni Association had invited the entire class, and a large crowd was expected. It was his first visit since the events that had turned his life upside down. Walking beside him was his beautiful wife, Barbara, her hand holding his tightly. Barbara understood perfectly well the painful memories this town stirred in him and responded by gripping his hand even tighter. Their energetic 2-year-old son, Mason, started to grow restless and soon ran off in search of adventure. As Thomas and Barbara stopped to admire the window display of an antique shop, distracted Mason bumped into a woman begging for alms. She staggered, dropping a paper bag, and a few items spilled onto the sidewalk, including a condolence card. "Mason Anderson, stop fooling around this instant!" Barbara's firm voice cut through the air, making the woman freeze at the sound of the familiar name. Turning to her, Barbara quickly apologized. "I'm sorry. We've been driving for a long time and he's full of energy." Mason approached the woman, his voice soft and apologetic. "I'm sorry I made you cry. Are you okay?" The woman gave him a kind smile. "It's all right. You have a well-mannered boy. You should be proud." When Thomas bent down to pick up her fallen belongings, their eyes met. For a moment, their gazes locked in silent recognition, as Mason handed his father an apple that had fallen out of the bag. Without a word, Thomas returned the bag to her, but Barbara noticed tears starting to form in his eyes. Her protective instincts kicked in immediately, and she abruptly stepped between her husband and the woman who carried so much of their past. Her look, cold and sharp, carried a clear warning. "Stay away from my family," she said in an icy tone. As Ava turned to leave, Barbara's parting words pierced the air. "Forever means never. You're in this position because of your sins. You thought you could do all that evil and be happy. No, this is your karma." This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.